Today we have Prof. Helene Tenzer, who is joining us for WAIB's Women in the Academy of International Business, Paving the Way series. And with this interview, we'd like to celebrate the Women's History Month, March 2025. Please welcome Helene Tenzer.
Thank you so much for having me on the interview series, and hello from Munich.
You have a great career journey. I've been inspired by reading about your academic career, and I've looked at also some of your papers. They're very interesting about linguistic diversity and the role of language in global teams. And my first question would be, could you let our audience briefly know about the story of your research? Where did it start? And how did your interests evolve over time?
So I've basically always been interested in languages and cultures since high school. But I always knew that I wanted a career where it was pretty likely that I would have a job later on. So I picked a study program that was called Intercultural Language and Business Studies. So it combined culture, language, and business. And from that, I went straight on to do a PhD in intercultural communication. So in my dissertation, I compared how different academic disciplines conceptualize culture, as a concept. And that was a massive literature work that had 60 pages of references alone. And after that, in the postdoc, I shifted to international business, international management, but I still kept an interest in cross-disciplinary work. So in 2009, I started what you just mentioned, what I'm still doing, studying the impact of language diversity on global teams. And in that stream of research, I combine international management ideas with concepts from linguistics, psychology, and organizational behavior. And that's where I think the excitement is. That's where new ideas can come up rather than sticking to one particular field. I mean, it isn't always easy to conduct or to publish cross-disciplinary research, but I think that's what makes international business exciting.
It's very interesting and very inspiring. My next question would be, during your career, what were the two most defining moments?
So the first moment actually came rather early. That was still during my undergraduate studies. And I had taken an exam. I reviewed the exam and I saw on the cover page of the exam in red ink a note from the professor, please come to office hours. And I was like, ooh, okay. I was really worried. Had I done anything wrong, right? It was a good exam, wasn't it? And turned out he wanted to talk to me to hire me as a student assistant. And he really set me on the academic track from that meeting onwards. So he gave me a backstage view of academia. He let me teach, involved me in research projects, also sent me to the United States for an exchange program where I met my husband. So it was the full package. And he later encouraged me to do a PhD under his supervision, and throughout the PhD really mentored me comprehensively. And I'm incredibly grateful to my PhD supervisor. In Germany, we call these people Dr. Vater, so basically PhD father. And he was kind of an academic father to me, because without him, I probably wouldn't have entered academia. So the morale of that story, I think, is look for people who are willing to mentor you, who want to see you grow, who want to help you develop. They're really worth a lot. Second story, maybe I can tell from my transition from PhD to postdoc. That was a very hard time because I had spent months and months job hunting, and I was increasingly desperate to find a postdoc position. Until I finally, I saw a posting where I thought, okay, that would be perfect. I applied on the same day, and half an hour after sending out the email, I got a reply from Professor Markus Budelko, who was putting together his new international business team at Tübingen University. He asked me for a phone call, and we talked for 1.5 hours, and he hired me on the spot. And that was an incredible relief after that hard time of job hunting. And it also paved me the way into international business with so much to learn, right? And new topics, new methods, new conferences, different publishing game. So much became possible through that. And I think from that, we can learn that if there's a tough period where we are looking for opportunities, we should, I think, stick to it and not despair, right? Reminds me of Richard Branson. I can tweak one of his quotes saying, job opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming, right? The waiting is nerve-wracking, but finally the bus does come. And I experienced the exact same thing when transitioning from postdoc to professor. For several years, there were literally no job postings in Germany in international business for professorships. But I mean, I finally made it. I'm here. I couldn't be happier. So if you experience the same, the bus will come, right?
Interesting, how it's always good to hear from established figures, especially who are also female, who keep us reminding that, it's good some things are worth the wait, and it's good to persevere, as well as it's so important to have that, one person who will be supporting you and paving you the way for leadership, for improving your career. Next, I would like to ask you about, so certainly, as you may agree with me, our careers and our lives are impacted by external environments and factors such as, socioeconomic, political changes around us. What do you think, how AI and the rise of technology is going to impact women's career?
So artificial intelligence. I mean, there are so many different applications of AI, right? But let me pick out one that's probably very important for international business as a field. Because there are amazing AI tools for language editing, and they can help non-native speakers of English, like the two of us, to improve our writing and help with publishing. So we all know that English is the dominant language in academic publishing, not only in management. And studies have shown that non-native speakers have a substantial disadvantage in the review process. Now, AI tools can partly offset that by polishing our writing and targeting it to a particular style. So I think that could be particularly helpful for female academics who are insecure about their rhetorical capabilities, maybe. And it's also helpful for perfectionists. So, I mean, I know what I'm talking about. I am one. And I do appreciate that extra coaching that AI tools can give us. But I mean, it's not all like rosy, right? We also need to bear in mind that AI tools have algorithmic bias. So they are mostly trained on like vast data crawled from the internet, and that includes historic texts. And those texts often have gender bias within them. So in crawling the internet, the AI and the large language model soaks that bias up, and it often reproduces it in the output. So in one experiment study, colleagues asked ChatGPT to create reference letters for a male and a female job candidate. They used the exact same prompt, just varied the gender. Yeah, guess what? The female applicant was described, praised as warm and caring and a great team player. And the male applicant was praised as decisive and a great leader. I mean, guess who they are more likely to hire for a top-level position? So we need to be aware of that bias, and we need to be very critical of AI output so that we don't over-rely on AI-generated language, because that could actually reproduce the very stereotypes we are working so hard to overcome.
When you mentioned about top-level leadership positions, it brought me food for thought. And my next question is, given all these challenges and opportunities, how should women approach being a good leader?
That answer probably doesn't apply to women only. I would also recommend men to be like that. But we all start as followers, not as leaders, right? So while we are followers, I think we should observe what our leaders are doing and think about what behavior has inspired me, what has frustrated me. And on that basis, think about what kind of leader do I want to become? And once it's our turn to step up, I mean, that often feels like being thrown in the deep end, into the cold water, as we say in German. Then we need to draw on the observations from before, need to remember them, and try to do it better. And as we get more and more responsibility, I think it's very important that we remain open and receptive to feedback. Because I noticed that many leaders, they love to hear themselves talk. But the Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, and I like that, we have 2 ears, but just 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And also leaders should listen a lot so that they find out what do their followers need, so they can lead them appropriately, and also to incorporate the feedback to improve their leadership style.
That was philosophical.
And it goes out to the men as well, not only to women.
The recipes of becoming a good leader should be applicable to both genders. So you are on the board of International Management Commission and the German Association of Business Scholars, and you lead your faculty's mentoring program. If you could decide leadership in 3 words, what would they be?
So I think it should be personalized, inclusive, and authentic. So personalized, I mean, as a leader, find out what a particular team member needs to succeed. So are they, for example, a new PhD student? They probably need hands-on guidance and a bit more like closer supervision. Then more experienced individuals, they need more autonomy, but maybe an extra push of motivation as the work is dragging on. Some people need more structure to perform. Others maybe need more like flexibility if they have, say, family commitments to manage. So I think we shouldn't have a one-size-fits-all approach, but find out what everyone particularly needs to help them perform at their best. Now with inclusion, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, knocking down open doors, as we say in German. I think as a leader, you set the tone in your team. So make sure that everyone is heard and respected equally and doesn't feel any pressure to conform to any type of mainstream. And I think to achieve that, you need to create a psychologically safe climate where people are just not afraid of voicing ideas, not afraid of negative feedback for new and unconventional ideas. And I think to create that psychological safety, you need to be authentic. So that would be my third keyword. So lead by example, and if you set a standard, also follow that yourself. Say you want to promote work-life balance in your team, well then don't send emails during holidays or during weekends or at 1 a.m. Because that might make your team members feel pressured, right? And also be authentic in terms of share not only your successes, also talk about your failures, talk about what you did to address mistakes, how you overcame them. Then people have the feeling that they don't have to be perfect, have more psychological safety, and also become more resilient as a result.
That's, I think, a good recipe for a good leadership. Everyone, has their unique style, but it's important to make people safe, and that it's important to accept both success and failure with grace and gratitude and humility. My final question would be, as you know, here at Women in the Academy of International Business, one of our aims is to nurture younger generation and support the women's empowerment. What advice would you give them for a fulfilling life and career?
So I read the previous conversations, and Paula Caligiuri said, find something you love researching. And I really found that spot on. I couldn't agree more, because in a PhD or in carrying a project finally to publication, you will spend a lot of time. It will take very, very long. And if you're really passionate about a topic, you will find it much easier to persevere, even if there are difficulties. And I actually think that this freedom to research what we are interested in is one of the key privileges of academia. So let's take advantage of that. But I would add that academia is not everything, that you need a healthy work-life balance. I mentioned it in the leadership part before, precisely because we are so passionate about what we do, it's very easy to let work take over our lives, more or less. But as you probably also know, the publishing game in international business and elsewhere is very intense. It frequently has its setbacks, like slap in the face setbacks. And those are much easier to overcome if you also have something else in life. And I mean, it doesn't matter. That can be a hobby, that can be friends, that can be family. But if something gives you balance, gives you the opportunity to recharge, then you can overcome the setbacks and develop the resilience that you need in our business.
That was very inspiring, and I'm left elevated and motivated by our talk, and I trust that our audience will feel the same. And on this note, we'd like to finish our talk.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure, and yeah, all the best to all the amazing international business ladies out there.